Townsville City started life when a sea captain by the name of Robert Towns commissioned John Melton Black to build a wharf on Cleveland Bay to service the new inland cattle industry, as local boy Tony O'Connor explains.
European history in Australia is very young, as we know, but it's extremely young up in North Queensland, and the reason for that is until 1859 it was all a part of New South Wales. 1859 it's declared the new state of Queensland. The population of the new state's about 20-odd thousand people around the Moreton Bay, Darling Downs area, and scattering through to Rockhampton. 1860 this region was declared open for settlement, calling it the Kennedy District, named after Edmund Kennedy, a great explorer that explored far north Queensland. So they've opened up this new area of the Kennedy District. 1861 they've established Port Denison and Bowen to be the major port and administrative centre to service the growth of this new area. Now Bowen's about 200 kilometres south of Townsville. In between we have the Burdekin River, second largest river in the state, catchment area of 7.5% of Queensland. For the settlers on the northern side of the river, that became a real problem. During the wet season they'd be cut off for months on end, up to 6 months at a time, from gaining access to that port. They were constantly crying out for a new port from the state government on the northern side of the river, but they just didn't have the funds to establish that. Finally, a bloke over the other side of the range here, John Melton Black, said enough's enough, we're going to set up our own port and centre to service us blokes on the northern side of the river. So he sent a couple of his head stockmen and Aboriginal trackers down to the coastline. They discovered the Ross River system, and he said, this is perfect, this is going to be our new port. He went down to Sydney to see a business associate of his, Captain Robert Towns, to see if he'd invest in the growth of this new port. He was one of the wealthiest men in the country at the time. He was a merchant. He had fleets of ships and millions of acres of property about the place, sheep stations and cattle stations, including this area, and he saw the opportunity, so he agreed to invest. They originally called the place Castletown, later on changing its name to Townsville.